So tell me what your bottleneck is. Like in your business, what do you wish you had more of? What do you wish came easier? What's your bottleneck?
What I would say is my rub. There's lots of down payment assistance programs that aren't attainable, and the people are appearing to have a wage discrepancy as far as values. And if we were to, where I live, there's lots of second home markets, there's lots of cash flying, and it's demographic shifts. And it's unfortunate to have to see friends and family moving because they can't keep up and their wages aren't keeping up. And then these amazing programs don't actually give them the money they need to, and it gets absorbed back to like our general fund that who knows where it goes. So it's like my rub is just not seeing the results. Like the people that want to be homeowners just are that far from being able to attain it. And you want to inspire them, help them build goals and do all the things, make priorities. I guess that's why my passion to get more involved with like legislation. I think I recently heard, I don't know if it's true or not, I need to find out, but if the homeowners that live in their houses conduct their insurance here, homes could be more affordable. And we can't maybe control interest rates, but we can control tax codes and things like that, which I think will help. And I think that being able to provide the education to people is important. That's why with both our passions to share that value on YouTube, because as they understand that system, then they can overcome the fear of it or the victimhood of it and be able to just get in and start building the wealth so that they can start playing on the same field. And so I think that's my biggest challenge is people are disheartened, and it's hard to always inspire them when they think there's this huge conspiracy to make everybody renters. And I'm like, you better buy now then. Yeah.
It's certainly, if it's not a conspiracy, it's certainly moving that way just through macroeconomics. Like, I think a lot in terms of board games. I like board games, I always have.
Yeah.
And like you look at Monopoly, Monopoly is a very accurate depiction of a single issue economy. It's very,
Right.
if you just are
Right.
looking at one thing, if I'm looking at books and every spot on the board is book share, right? And you have someone come in and they're like, okay, they just bought up more and more like Amazon did, and then they did more and more. And then as soon as they've got all the squares, they're okay, I'm gonna build a bunch of hotels. I'll raise the rates, I'll do all this stuff, I'll invest in this other stuff. It's just wild if you look at housing. Gen Alpha is just starting a Monopoly game
Yeah.
500 turns after everyone else did. It's not only are all the spaces already owned, but all the spaces already have two houses and most of them have a hotel on them already. Like these assets have been improved to high heavens. And because they're not building enough houses to keep up with demand, it's no, the only houses here are expensive in a way that's crazy. So feel free to live in a two-bedroom, one-bath apartment for $2,100 a month.
It's amazing, crazy. That's why the co-op seems like a reasonable outlet, but it's not the overall solution, obviously. And that's
I
where,
think it's a great
yeah,
solution, but it's okay. It's a great solution, but it's not the American dream. And unless we are going to reframe the American dream, hey, you're not going to live in a house with a dog. You're not going to have a little patch of grass for your kids to run. You're going to live in a stack and pack, 5 floors tall, 550 units. If you can find a co-op, otherwise it's going to be like luxury apartments at $2,300 a month for a two-bedroom, one bath. There's real downward pressure on all of that. And so I
yeah,
agree. I think very possibly the only solution is legislation. But if you want to find an interest group that's dug in, just look at anything related to keeping real estate values high. That is every owner in the country, period. Like, I
yeah,
don't want my property values to fall. You don't want your property values to
yeah,
fall. No one does.
yeah. Well, have you, off topic, there's a developer, Mitch Vexler, who he's out of Texas, and they stopped doing developments because he was finding he had to clear a lot basically, and they weren't something with, I'll have to send it to you, but basically the values. And he started researching like the bonds, the school bonds, and how the assessor was evaluating the lot after the fact he had to clear it. And there was fraud in the school bonds apparently nationwide, or there is. So he has this, I don't know, it's interesting. People are then now focusing on going to try to get rid of the property tax bond, the school bonds. And so I'm curious how this will all shake out because, as you nailed it on the head, it's in the best interest of the counties and the people to have the equity that they built so they can sustain themselves. And then how to tap out that equity, or that's the thing. I guess my rub is the movement isn't as fluid right now, unless you get out of California. Or maybe that's where being able to invest in 8 different properties in Oklahoma will help if they're willing to move to Oklahoma because they're not going to be able to buy anything here. And
Well, yeah, and that's the problem. Like we don't Bedrock doesn't care. I'm gonna be candid. We don't care where we're buying. As long as the market
Mhm.
works. Like we bought our team bought properties in LA back in 2009, 10, and 11, hundreds of properties. We bought property in Phoenix, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. We bought really heavily 17, 18, 19, 20 in Memphis and Orlando. And then both of
Yeah.
those markets priced out. And so then we've been buying still some in Phoenix, but a lot in Oklahoma City. We bought some in Indianapolis. Then we bought a lot more in Ocala, Florida, just north of Orlando. So we're always just moving to where the math works, right?
Yeah.
But I look at people who want to stay in California. Actually, funnily enough, my wife and I, when we started Bedrock, was like 2017, and we were leaving financial advice. And my wife came to me one day and she knew, she knows me. She knew I had that look in my eyes of like, I got an idea. And I
Hmm.
basically said, hey, I think this is the deal. I think if we work hard for 5 years, we won't earn hardly anything, but I've got a really good idea and I think I can make it work. I was like, we'll work hard for 5 years and then you'll never worry about money again. And she's like, that sounds great.
Yeah.
But let's sell the house. Let's sell a couple of the rentals. Let's buy the biggest RV we can, and let's
Nice.
go
Yeah.
tour the country with the kids.
That's
And so I thought she lost her dang mind. Like, I was
I
like,
was
there's no way
living
that's
my
gonna
life.
work.
I love it.
I was like, there's no way that's gonna work. There's no way I can build a company while driving around an RV. But it turns out you can. And we
Yeah.
went and we had a blast. Like we went and traveled. It was luckily it hit during the pandemic. Like we were
Yeah. It
traveling
made it
during the
easier.
pandemic. And so we were in like Yellowstone for a month. We were in Glacier for a month. We were in Sedona, Arizona for 3 months during
Beautiful.
lockdown. And my little babies, like my littlest was a year and a half when we left. And so like my babies were running through the Sequoia forest. It was
Yeah.
amazing. We ended up that whole trip in Pismo Beach in California. I love Pismo Beach,
Yeah. It's
right?
great.
Like
Yeah.
anywhere in the country, if I could pick a place, it'd be Santa Barbara. I just think it has all the things I love.
Yeah.
But Pismo Beach, we were there. It was cool, like a little Santa Barbara, cool place, really interesting. We loved it. We were there for 6 months. And I just remember coming back home with some burgers from like a burger stand for $92 for 6 burgers. And I
Yeah.
looked at my wife and I was like, I honestly think we could have 80% of this in Charleston, South Carolina for
Yeah.
30% of the price. I was like, I
Right.
just don't like it's just not worth $92 for burgers. And so I looked at her, I was like, I think we need to move to Charleston. We both knew we liked Charleston. We both knew the waves weren't quite as good for surfing. But I was like, I think we can have a lot of this in Charleston for half.
Right.
Sure enough, like, so
The
staying in,
rest of California went with you too. No,
well,
half of our people that left. Yeah.
we had been everywhere in California and we were like settling down, looking at buying in Pismo Beach. And at the end of the day, I was just like, no, I just can't pay that much. I can't have that much property taxes and that much
Yeah.
oversight from the government, like that much in my face every time I turn around from the government. I can't have that
Right.
much income tax. Like I look at the people up in Baker, California, you know, that little town outside Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you really paying 13% state income taxes to live in Baker?
Yeah. It's
Like,
crazy. I know. That's
Baker?
where it's the ocean. That's my excuse. Our climate.
Oh, it's
Eventually.
wonderful.
Yeah, no, I know. Tennessee, they got blown up. But yeah, that's the thing. It's or one of my ways to try to encourage people is helping them identify opportunity zones like you are and how they can. So for my example, I bought a couple houses, so forth, but one house I live in right now, we actually rent it because it's closer to everything we need for our family's goals and all of that. But then I bought a vacation rental and I rent that out. And so it's like my way to inspire people is to help them think creatively. Or I've had a friend that's been on rent control for 30 years, and it's if she would have took the money she had saved, because she saved a ton of money being in rent control in San Francisco, and could have bought all these different properties while staying in rent. And so people don't have that creative mind like you do, where they have to look outside the box. Consider you may. So my son, he was like, I can't afford to live in California. And I'm like, you want to buy real estate in California before you go anywhere else because you're not going to get back here. You need
Fair.
to own something here the way that appreciates you, earn more, all that. But then, for example, you hear my dog? He's talking to me. I am
No,
looking at,
I
I
also
try
have a
to
dog sleeping under my
whining.
desk right here on the
Okay.
floor.
So the looking at opportunity zones, like I have family in Oklahoma and all over where it's a little bit more affordable. And so but being creative like that, if you could just pick up some rental properties and be able, like you're doing it on such a mass scale, but it's like we have no cash flow here unless you do have wealth to deduct stuff. It doesn't make sense. And so then how do we, if they can deduct their insurance, then potentially we can have more home ownership or owner occupied people that can thrive and still afford
Yeah.
to work. And so I don't know
You
the answer, but yeah, they need to get
you said
creative.
you said something earlier. Walk me through what you meant when you said you're struggling with the qualification requirements and income requirements for mortgage assistance. Like you were talking about that and you used a little bit more industry specific terminology that like one of your big bottlenecks was it like hurts you that it's hard for people to qualify for mortgage assistance. Walk me through that with a little bit. Talk to me as if I'm a fifth grader on that. Like
I'll try.
why is that painful?
Yes. For example, I work with a lot of flippers, and so they are rehabbing houses that you won't have to do any work on for a while. And the way they're also in these entry level markets, but are also second home markets. And we have really high fire insurance because there's lots of trees in these markets. And so although they're affordable housing at 450 for the price, once you get your insurance on top of that, it could be another 10,000 a year. And so when it all equals out, the person that can afford the 450 can't actually afford the coverage for insuring it now.
Got
And
it. Got
so,
it.
and the
So,
interest rates.
so that insurance effectively throws, like it used to be our rule of thumb was for every $100,000 you borrow, it's $500 on your mortgage. But with
Yeah.
interest rates being what they are now, it's for every 100,000 you borrow, it's $1,000 on your mortgage. And so
Yeah.
what you're effectively saying is the homeowner's insurance is effectively plussing the house price up effectively 100 grand. You're like,
Pretty
hey,
wild.
if this homeowner's insurance was just part of the mortgage, it could be a $550,000 mortgage. But because it's a $450,000 mortgage plus 100 grand, then they're not meeting the
Debt to
ratios for,
incomes.
yeah, they're
And
they're not
then,
meeting the ratios from Fannie and Freddie, so the mortgages don't get under it.
and so we have our state Cal HAFA program where they'll pay 25,000 down payment assistance and you have to fit into the little box. And I researched how much we had a $10 million fund and I looked into the admin cost and to issue the 13 or the 25,000, it costs 13,000 for the admin for marketing and all this stuff. So out of the 10 million, half of the people actually got the money and the rest went to other places. And
It's
then we have
gross.
it's very gross. And then we have the next one, which is a local nonprofit who's done a lot of developments in the area and whatnot. They have a $200,000 program. For example, there's one of these rehabs that was 450. And with the 200,000 down, you have to fit into the little box and you have to make an income of 90 to 98,000 because you have to qualify for the DTIs and actually for the down payment assistance. And then you had to have three people in your tax return. And so it's a 2 bedroom house. And unless you're married with one kid, and then you're earning literally between 90 and 98,000, then you could get the free 200,000 to qualify for a $250,000 mortgage. No
Wait,
one,
wait, wait,
that
wait,
house,
wait. You're gonna have to repeat that one more time.
yeah.
Me through that, like you lost me in the madness of that. Repeat that one more time.
Yeah, so literally the property is 450. You can get $200,000 free down payment assistance. It's forgivable. You have to fit in the box as far as the income guidelines, plus you have to also qualify for the debt to income ratio guidelines. So the tiny box that you need to fit into is you have to actually earn the household of 90 to 98,000, and you have to have
To
three people on
qualify
your tax return.
to qualify for the debt to income ratio, to buy something worth 450,000, you have to earn between 90 and 98,000. So that's the qualification box. Like your debt to income has to be high enough to qualify. So 90 to 98,000. Okay, what's the next piece of this puzzle?
Yes, then you have to have a third person on your tax return because it can't just be a individual or based on the income guidelines. It tells you how many people are allowed in your household or how many you have to have with that income.
Okay,
And
so you've
so,
got to have at least two parents and a kid.
yeah, or a third, however you're claiming a third person.
A
Yeah.
dependent.
Yes, it
Okay.
depended.
So 90 to $98,000 is our box. You got to have three people. Married people need not apply, or people without like a live-in dependent need not apply. Okay, what else?
Yes, and it's a two, like this one was a two-bedroom house, and hopefully it's a kid and not three people that are taking care of each other in different rooms. The other part, that one also had $10,000 a month or a year insurance. And so that was a big part of it. And so these are in this area, Sonoma County, this is the Russian River. It's one of the most affordable housing areas, but it's also a second home market. That's where a lot of vacation rentals were, but they stopped the vacation rentals in hopes to allow more of these locals to buy the properties. The locals are not earning the income to actually qualify. They won't get $90,000 a year to get into these houses. And so we have these awesome programs that the people I think they're meant to fix or help get housing actually can't qualify. And so it's just, I don't know where the money's going because the people aren't buying the houses, and then they can't use the houses for, the only way you could actually pencil it out is if you own it as a rental property. And so then, because then you could take the deduction on your insurance and whatever else. And so that's for
Yeah.
my example, why I'm renting out my property in that area, because if I live in it, it doesn't pencil for me. It's not financially like feasible. And then the location, it's easier for me to be where I live now.
Yeah.
So it's just when you do the whole math of it, it sounds good, but it's not working. And it goes back to the 25,000 in California. That doesn't do much for you. It pays the bank's closing costs, basically.
We're bummers. You and me, we're
I am.
bummers.
Well, we're going to fix the world somehow by enlightening people about how to really make these programs work
Okay,
or
just
start.
curious. Where is Russia River? I've never heard that term before. Is that Santa Rosa north?
Yeah, Lower Russian River is, there's a town called Guerneville, or my house like is in Monterey, and it's actually called Vacation Wonderland. So they've been predominantly used for resort area, and people then started moving into these old 100-year-old houses that are very dilapidated, non-permits. They are the most affordable homes, but it's, so that's why a lot of flippers work out there because they can fix them up and they're lower cost kind of thing.
Yeah. They
And
can get in and
still,
get out and make some profit.
yeah, and still return it at an affordable price. But where it's all kind of halted was the change of insurance costs and the rates. And then, of course, the inability to use the property as we intend to. Like in Idaho, I'm so proud of them for passing that homeowners can do what they want with their property if you want a vacation rental it or not. It gives you, if you have a situation and you need to exit your house really quick, it's good to have that as an option, especially since our rents don't cash flow here. So
Yeah.
it takes ability away from to build wealth, which luckily I had the option to have that permit to rent out mine as a vacation rental, but even still it wouldn't pencil if I put a tenant in. So financially it doesn't make sense.
I think, and I was talking with my wife about this the other day. Like, I was trying to think of a solution because I agree. I think it's broken. I think it's just broken.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I think what has to happen is someone at some level has to figure out industrial production policy where they can produce like a 1960 style shotgun home that's indistinguishable from like a 1920 to a 1960 shotgun home. You know, the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Pretty
Sears.
straightforward, pretty, yeah. Sears,
Yeah.
that one, that house, like Sears Roebuck,
Yeah.
86 bucks. You need to build that in a modular way so you get all the economies of scale, but you need to build it not form pressed and not insulation form pressed. Because the problem with modular, I think everyone understands and everyone has problems with, is you're never going to be able to repair it. Like you're going to have to cut into the walls and
Yeah.
it's never going to go back the same.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of sticks and bricks is you can pull off the drywall, you can fix the crap, you can put the drywall back on, you can paint it, you can rehab it, you can rehab it forever. And all the modular stuff that I've ever seen, you can't. Like as soon as you
Yeah.
tear into a mobile home's walls, it is already half dead because it's not going to
Totally.
heal from that. And so
Yeah.
really I think what someone has to do is they have to figure out a way to build sticks and bricks modular and then be able to bring in those Sears style houses and hook them together and be done.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to do that. Like they're trying 3D printing with concrete, they're having a million problems with concrete. It's
Yeah.
just blocks work. Pouring it has all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it's got to be. I think we're seeing that the economy and the economics of it, people are willing to live in stuff that is smaller. And
They
so I
are.
think we take a lesson from the past and go back to kind of shotgun homes, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, not McMansions. But then we have to have the coding in place that you can actually put 300 of those somewhere
Yeah.
and
No,
and
it
have
is
it
great.
and have on-street parking because those shotgun homes did not have huge parking yards. Like we've changed so much the code around it. Like I live in a tiny little town, and every single time anyone says development, the whole Facebook group just blows up. They're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're ruining our town. You're ruining our town. You're the worst." And I'm like, they got to live somewhere. Like we've all got to live
Yeah.
somewhere. Just because you have a house doesn't mean you can say everyone else can just pay $2,200 a month for 2 bedroom, 1 bath.
Yeah.
It's unsustainable.
And that's where, yeah, the zoning laws in different areas that are limiting. We have in California had the infill changes to our infill. Our county specifically actually has more strict guidelines than the state does, which makes it very challenging and affordable to build or unaffordable. And so it is curious to see like there are certain areas where you would have to pay like 100,000 for a septic to get another unit on there, or how those zoning, it has control, it's totally been able to control where the building is, and they want everybody to be in the cities and fill in there. We did in the state, just they blocked one bill that was going to allow 8 unit properties in residential, and the big argument with that was that there wasn't enough parking for the house, the neighborhoods or something like that. So I kind of see that it is hard to find the balance as maintaining the integrity of the community in essence, as far as how you're going to fill in. I agree that the cities are probably they're most appropriate, right? If we can convert these commercial buildings that are just obviously sitting vacant now because since the pandemic, that makes sense. And there are some beautiful ideas like putting so that these boomers can age out and these newer housing developments and have like in-home, or what one of my clients was talking about having like a medical field, or basically one of the floors would be for medical. So you could age out in the unit or in the building and actually have your medical there, and helping vets with that kind of stuff. And so that's where I think a mix of the type of housing. We have another project here called the Santa Rosa Commons, which was they broke ground in the 80s. And I assume they've used some of these like funds that are available now to help with these building developments. I think there was an SNL scandal or some housing crash back then. So there was an influx of funds that helped to build out this project, which is great. Today, they're still very successful. They have angel investors that still carry $1 million note, but the 2 bedroom houses, they're only paying $1,200 a month as an owner. And what's the difference of that versus like HUD housing, where our taxpayers are just paying to perpetuate a problem like projects of New York? Now it's like on a mass scale, nationally and globally, I see. But when you have home ownership, like even if it has to be a co-op aspect of things to keep it affordable, then the sense of community is different, where the people actually have pride and ownership and want to take care of their communities and each other, and they have built out more like sustainable infrastructure, like real green living with like permaculture and different things, that they're actually like able to eat the food off of their landscaping. So it is a combination of finding alternatives, and then the money that I've like this sitting that nobody qualifies for, I'd love for that to go towards these type of housing projects. Right now though, we have so much with the fentanyl settlements and homelessness that the nonprofits are funding we have this one development this guy wants to build out for veterans, and unfortunately in order to qualify as a and to get into that housing, or to even get the money to do the development, you have to find 100 drug abuse active drug abuser veterans that are homeless, and they have to maintain that status until we actually build the development out, because that's the only way to access the money to build the development. And so then if you so the it's just it's a bureaucracy, right? Is that the right term? It's so complicated to actually access the funds to do these
Hey,
things.
we're trying our best, but we've only got 77 drug abuser veterans, so I guess we don't qualify at all. And oh, we had 100 drug abuser veterans, but one of our drug abuser veterans got clean, and so he's
Sober.
not a drug abuser veteran. There's a book that just came out by Ezra Miller and another guy who I can't remember, but it's called Abundance. And it's this whole kind of takedown of liberal policies and they use a really long form example of the fiber, like rural fiber that was passed in the infrastructure bill from Biden. And they were
Uh-huh.
talking about how to qualify for this rural fiber program. There were like 17 different levels of application and revision and application and revision. And it was talking about how 4 years later, after this program rolled out with $100 billion, I don't know, a huge amount of money behind it, that only 3 municipalities had qualified for approval. Now, what's interesting is my home happens to be in an area that did qualify for federal fiber. And on the internet front of things, most internet's 100 megabytes per second up, 20 or 30 megabytes per second down. Like my whole life, it's been 150, 200, and like a third of that down, like 100 up, 30 down. They rolled out fiber here on the federal fiber program. Like they managed to jump through all the hoops. And from my home, which is in this little tiny town in South Carolina, it's like 700 up, 700 down. Like I upload videos all day long. My assistant lives in Greensboro. Like the town is 10 times bigger, 50, 100 times bigger. She cannot upload a video. And because the federal fiber, rural fiber thing is, man, I've got the best internet I've ever had in the middle of dang nowhere. And I look at that and I'm like, how awesome would that be everywhere? Like a gig fiber everywhere. And it's the same thing that you're talking about. It's like there's all these programs with the best intentions, but I'm just going to call that one a spade a spade. That's dumb. You've got to have 100 drug addicted veterans who stay drug addicted to That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, maybe in my life. If you enjoyed that clip, you're probably going to love the channel and all the long form content we produce. This clip is actually just a little piece of a long conversation we had on this subject. If you want to watch the whole thing, get into more nuance, that link's below.